Hi, welcome to the Dave Palmer Show. And with me in this episode, I have a film producer, author, entrepreneur, speaker, mentor, and coach. She can help you face obstacles without shame by talking about overcoming your past and her memoir, For the Right Kind of Love. Shari Moss, welcome to the Dave Palmer Show.
Thank you, Dave. It's actually very nice to be here. But that was quite a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, I used to make them really long introductions when I first started out in the podcasting world, but someone said, "Oh no, make it short and punchy and really make it kind of showtime." Like that. And it seems to work for me to do it better that way because I want the the listeners to really get engrossed with the actual conversation. So anyway, yeah. So you've got a lot to share with my audience today and really help them.
Oh, I
I'm
agree.
yeah. I'm inspired by your story, and you come from.
Well,
Well, yeah, go ahead.
that's very, very kind of you. A lot of the work I do today is exactly for that reason. I want people to be inspired, to be able to find that inner strength, to find resilience, and to get through. There's just so much life has to throw at you, and believe me, since a very, very young age, I've been through something at least for every decade for decades. And if you can be inspired to dig a little bit deeper and find a little bit more strength by hearing somebody else's triumphs, and I think that's important to share.
Yeah, wow. Well, just, I mean, you obviously with the introduction, you've had some successes in your life, and I've dabbled with a lot of things, and I'd say I've reasonably done well with a lot of them, really, irrespective. I try to stay humble. But you come from a beginning where it was kind of some difficult times and overcoming some adversities. So just tell us your story from the beginning. I mean, you're in Canada now, but you're actually from the US originally, yeah?
Yes, born in Canada, but moved to the US at a very, very young age. There were essentially four of us three siblings and myself, four of us,
Yeah.
all, a year apart. But we were living in the desert in California. But this was a long time ago. The desert in California is quite known today for, fabulous spa vacations. But this was
Yeah.
long enough ago where you were isolated, very,
Oh,
very
really?
isolated. So
Okay.
we were yes, extremely isolated. Excuse me. The next home was, let's just say, a half mile away,
Yeah.
but very poor. We lived in the four of us occupied a single motel unit.
Right.
Uh, it was owned by my stepfather, my mother, my stepfather, but it was at a time where there was a lot of judgment, a lot of looked down upon, a lot of disdain,
Right.
that you
Okay.
didn't have the things that everybody had. So I would dream of that. I would dream of
Right.
having a home and pretty dresses and toys, etc.
Yeah. Um, but staying in a motel, I mean, that sounds quite nice, doesn't it? To a certain point. I mean,
Well, except for, you know, it was the 60s, 70s. We're not talking about anything lavish, that's for sure.
yeah,
We didn't have toys. We played with the tumbleweeds blowing around in the desert.
yeah,
But eventually I did. My family, my mother took the rest of us kids back up to Canada when I was about in high school.
yeah.
But the whole journey, excuse me,
Yeah, that's all right.
the whole journey getting there, a different school every year, basically,
Yeah, yeah.
not having enough time to make friends, which at the
Right.
time seemed like a great thing because, as I said, it's hard to make friends when you can't keep up with them,
Yeah,
at a
yeah.
young age. You don't do activities, and you barely have lunch, to bring to school. So, but coming back into Canada and then getting into high school, same thing happening again. But only this time, I should go back a little bit and say my greatest challenge really came from the teachers and the parents.
All
And
right.
what you
Okay.
don't understand, what you don't understand at a young age is how can teachers and parents be so judgmental and
Yeah,
treat you
yeah.
differently than
Yep.
others. And So same thing happened coming to Canada into high school. I found that our home situation wasn't very good. My mother at
Yeah.
this point now just
This is in
non-existent.
Toronto.
Yeah, yeah, a little northern
Oh,
Ontario.
Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, at this point, she's non-existent, and really was just us. And so I felt, again, you know, when you don't have even enough food to eat, it affects you in so many ways, socially and academically and emotionally, maturely. So I felt like I didn't actually get a chance to be in control of that until I got into my early 20s and could work and, you know, take
Yeah.
care of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So,
Well,
well, then of course, sorry,
no, go
go
on.
ahead.
No, no, I was going to say, uh, you obviously you went through this poor situation growing up, um, and you also went through. I mean, did you go through college or anything like that? Like meanings, you know.
Well, so that's yes, I tried.
Okay.
Um, I tried 1 year away at university, but when you don't have, it was very difficult. You don't have emotional or financial support, and
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
it opened my eyes. Really, I was seeing the fellow students, the way their parents were always, helping or there for them. I was very, very alone at that point.
Okay.
So I didn't do well naturally. And then I thought, well, that's it. I have to get to work. And I
Yeah.
worked 2 jobs and began to decide who I was and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I'd always known in my heart that to be to be a good person was what was really essential. What bothered me so much was that all through the years, the teachers and parents, they never bothered to get to know who I was as a person. But I
Yeah.
stuck to my guns and I knew what was right and what was fair. So I worked very, very hard. Um, and I got into fabulous, small business as a start. This was now the 80s. And it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
the company I began to work for was an industry that was entirely male. It was a very,
Right.
very
What industry
strong
was that then?
male wire and cable.
Oh, I know why. Okay. Okay. The telephone, the
It's based,
telecommunication company.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, it became telecommunications later, but this was before that. And we're talking wire for anything from transformers to toasters to ambulances.
Oh, okay.
So you can imagine the things I went through for inequality as a woman. There was no way I worked harder and learned as much as I could, and I did very well.
Yeah.
But it was still hugely a lot of blocked, some doors closed and
You're
things
right.
were
Yeah.
blocked. I learned to survive at such an early age. I just kept
Yeah. Yeah.
going. Eventually, I did marry, and
Yeah.
my husband and I opened up our own distributorship, and that's right around the time of wireless telecom. We did fabulously. We did extremely well. All those years of,
Distributing
sorry,
distribution in what industry?
wireless telecom.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, so in the same industry.
yes,
Okay.
yes. It was a big, big thing to happen for the transition into wireless. There's a
Yeah.
lot of cable and wireless, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I know. Yeah.
but we did. We had a hugely successful distribution business. We both worked very, very hard.
Yeah.
Sadly, the next challenge came along in the form of my husband and his alcoholism and substance abuse.
Right. Okay.
So I was all the way back down to not mattering again.
Yeah.
I'm, for all your listeners that have any kind of experience with this with someone, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's you're underwater, you're very deep underwater, and it's a struggle. It's a
Yeah.
big struggle. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there might be some listeners that probably overcame it, addiction or alcohol through whatever stress, or there are some like yourself that's probably lived through it. But what kind of drugs was it? I mean, was it
Well,
real hard drugs, or because with the alcohol, obviously mixing that together obviously makes it
yeah,
even
and
more
I
of a
hate.
potent mix,
Yes, it was terrible. I'm just going to say this. We're not talking soft drugs. It can change a person terribly. It becomes their whole focus. Now, we had two while we were building the business, and we had a beautiful life, you know. It was something I worked really, really, really hard for. And the thing that you'll find the thread in the book is about my homes.
Yeah.
When I was, 8 years old in the desert in that motel with nothing, literally, I had a Sears catalog, and I sat down and I designed my home with it. They show all the furniture and the things all set up into rooms. I still to this day remember exactly what it looked like and what exactly like. And so through the years, as I worked hard and you know to do those things for myself, it became something that was incredibly important to me, and I um, put a lot of effort, but probably too much so, on my home. And to me, that was the symbol of my success, was that I could have this lovely home. And we had two homes. We had a lake house. We had a home in the city.
Yeah.
So I struggled even more so with my husband's addictions, because I just didn't want to lose all that. And I kept changing the home because I kept thinking that's what needed to, if we, that home wasn't working, so we're going to try it somewhere else. And so it's a bit of a sad story. You'll understand it, in the book, but eventually I had to tear myself away from all that we had and all that we built. And I was back to with nothing, because
All right.
he, yeah, because not
Not
fairly,
even
just
half
because.
the business or anything like that.
Well,
Not
no,
more.
I did have that. It was tried to be taken away from me. Let's put it that way. It was a
All right.
fight. I had to
Yeah, yeah,
fight
yeah.
for
Well,
what was right
that
for me.
is unfortunately the part and parcel of
Yeah.
the process of when these things happen. Really.
Well, when you're fighting, you have to wait till, what's right will end up being right.
Yeah,
Don't get me
yeah.
wrong.
It's
I
even
do
worse
not.
at fighting. It's bad enough fighting in a relationship, but when it goes through a legal process, any kind of fighting, legally it becomes a real serious, issue, litigation.
Yeah, it is, but I'll tell you, I think the years I spent on my own, working myself to where I wanted to be, really, really said a lot for getting through those tough times as well.
Yeah,
Because I focused on, you know, um, the most important thing, of course, at the time was my kids, getting them stable and, into a better environment. It was really rough there for a little while. But yes, what's fair is fair, and took I took the successes I had rightfully earned and started to rebuild my life on my own elsewhere with my kids. But it wasn't long after that I sat down and I thought, okay, what is it that I really want to do? What I've done so much as a partner, as a wife and a business partner and a mom. But I'd always felt that there was something else I should have been doing. And that's what happened. I knew I was going to be a writer someday. I just didn't know where, when, and what it was going to be about.
yeah,
So once I got the kids settled and we were on our own, and again, the lovely house, I began to realize what was most important to me was the parents and teachers that shaped my world when I was growing up. Always, to me, was just, it was sad. I thought that, to me, parents and teachers should be about, helping, teaching, even caring. So I decided to take all the things that I had learned first, business wise, and all the great relationships I had with a lot of young people. 'Cause I was able to communicate with them very well, and I
yeah,
put all those into my first two books. And then all
yeah,
of a
yeah,
sudden, things started to change for me. I felt so wonderfully empowered by the fact that I could share my knowledge and I could care so much of helping young people to for their own success. So that's when things really started to change for me. And I designed some of my own programs to bring first young women, together and
yeah,
talk to them about facing adversities and finding strength and figuring out where they should go, what they should be doing.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that, and
Yes.
then one day I joined a group that was the whole concept of this was to share something about your life story um, in order to help others. And there were things that we usually don't tell people because for whatever reason we feel shame, we feel guilt, we want to forget the past, we want to just bury it. And so I found myself being able to talk about a lot of things that had happened to me. And as I did, I just felt brighter. I felt brighter, I felt lighter, and and I could see, literally see and hear from people how it was helping them understand, helping them find strength. And that's where this book came from. The book came from, and it's raw. I open up, my heart is on the table. There's no question about that. And I
Yeah.
tell the truth. I don't sugarcoat anything.
No, no.
Um, so I'm finding that that was one of the most powerful things I could have done just for the reactions from people telling me what it meant to them and what it made, how it made them feel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the book, you describe a relationship with your neighbour Wilma
Yeah.
and her husband, who became supportive figures in your life. So, tell us about that relationship and what it's taught you about friendships.
Well, it was funny at the beginning because I had come from moving around constantly every year and not really having a home, or friends that you build up through your, early years, formative years. And by the time we had moved into this beautiful house, we were very successful, had the two kids. We got into the fine neighborhood, and she was my neighbor, that we happened to meet on the driveway. And she was the exact opposite. She'd lived on the same street all her life. Her parents' house was just down the road.
Yeah.
And she'd always lived in the fine neighborhood in the big fine house, and
Oh.
had all these fine, I use the word fine,
Yeah, yeah.
things. And she was the sweetest, loveliest, the most human person was ever going to meet. She was so beautiful on the inside and out. We clicked so instantly. And there was this
Oh.
wrought iron fence between our backyards, and we would meet there, just like Betty and Wilma. And of course, we would, talk about our husbands and our
Yeah,
kids. But she gave me those things that I needed to learn that I never learned. I didn't have growing up.
yeah.
The way she ran her household and the way she carried herself,
Right, right.
and the way she looked. And for her side, living on the same street all your life, do you know what that much? Or, have you experienced that much? Have you been through enough trials and tribulations? How would you handle that if you were? So when things happened in her life, she leaned on me for that strength.
Yeah,
She marveled at how I could go through what I did with my husband and still keep getting up every day moving forward.
yeah, yeah. Um. So yeah, I mean, how long did you know your husband before you got married? I mean, was you dating for a long time?
We actually worked together. We started
Ah,
at the same company at the same time. So
right.
so literally we worked together for a couple years.
Yeah, yeah. So since you
Then
was like in your early
yeah,
20s or a
yes, yes,
teenager, young teen or
yes.
something. Yeah,
Yep. Early 20s, mid
yeah, yeah,
20s. We
yeah,
And you can understand, we then went to work together for someone else and then opened our own distribution. So, and we were well living together. So we were 24/7 together. It wasn't hard for us though. We were both very, very excited about what we were doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, that's really great that you. Well, it's well, I could say it's a transition from obviously you're trying to overcome, the obstacles when you were younger, or seeing, maybe there's a more to life that I can have, and then maybe you saw that in a relationship, and then obviously what eventually became the marriage. But like some relationships, you either have to work in, the marriages you have to work on it. There are flaws in people, but then maybe there's a time that it doesn't work out.
Well, I think the saddest part of the book, I want you to understand this.
Yeah,
We were very important to each other. We were true love.
yeah,
We really were. When things like this happen to somebody that they get caught up in, it's a wave that keeps drawing, pulling them out, further out, and they, if they try to swim against that current, and sometimes they're able to, but more often than not they can't. And it was not a symbol of our marriage or our love. It was strictly a symbol. Addiction is an incredibly powerful thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, people take drugs
It changes.
recreationally. But
When
this,
you get, yeah, when you get so far into, the thing is though, we did become successful. With success comes a lot of power. And you can do one or two things with that power. You can use it to self-destruct, or you can use it to do good in the world. He went
yeah.
one way, I went the other, and
Okay.
that's really what happened. But
Okay.
the amazing thing that happened along the way, as much as I was focused on building, what our life looked like, I will say that things I didn't have. I took parenting very seriously, mind you. I've got, my kids are just wonderful, but I eventually stopped working so I could be home with them. And as you can imagine, having no parents around, I really felt how important it really was. I didn't want them to miss out on the things that they could have in their first 15, 20 years of their life. But that whole lifestyle that I found very magical, that I was able to then be a part of, you know, it's the last few years that I've been on my own. I've been on my own actually for quite some time, but the last few years that I've been on my own, focusing on the work I love, it just, none of that really matters the same anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that. My things are just things. They used to be so important to me, and I'm glad I have them, but they're just not. It's not in my daily mantra or my daily routine to think about it. What I do think about is I'm happy. I remained true to my values, and
Yeah.
I stayed. I knew what was good and what was right, and I stayed on that track. And I'm happy where my life is now. I don't regret it. I don't regret a single thing. I think that it helped shape everything I feel, but I know what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, would you say that you found everything you've been dreaming of, from when you was young as a child?
Yes, I believe I have. And do
Yeah,
you
a
want to know
perfect house
something?
or a life you can be proud of.
I I do have a lovely home,
Okay.
but um, I think that what I really wanted, when you open it up, crack it wide open, was really just acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance and knowing you've done a good job. My concern is not for myself and hasn't been for a long time. My concern is for them out there. I
Right.
care about kids so much. I went to watch a talk in a prison, Colorado prison. Part of the work I've been involved in the last few years is called One Last Talk. And the idea is that if you have 15 minutes to say something, anything that would help somebody else, what would that be? And again, it's usually things that people haven't ever spoken about before. It's a very brave thing to do, this process. And I went to a One Last Talk in a Colorado prison with the person who runs the movement. And I watched 6 inmates who are there for life, they're not getting out, tell their 15-minute story. And one thing I can honestly tell you is every single one started with massively horrific things that happened to them as children.
Yeah.
So, and I thought to myself, my God. And the way what I was witnessing, what they were saying to the fellow inmates, not to the public. We were a few that were invited. To each other, they were saying, and I thought, if what excuse do I have for not telling my whole story if it could help other people, if they can be this brave? And so I went on that journey. I had so much, we're only touching the surface of all the things that really happened, but there's 1,000 stories and what happened and how I overcame them. And I thought I need to share that. I wrote the book so that people could see that it's really okay. They're not alone. It's aloneness that I want to help people with, feeling alone.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, well, that's great. Well, I'm sure you are doing some work out there helping other people now through your work. Tell us more about what you do now.
Well, I'm bringing some groups in together still. I like to form specific groups, and I like to help people think about writing that want to write their own journey.
Yeah,
I like to, you know, I make things at least interesting and exciting. Believe me, the book is not a pity party. It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
a sob story. It's actually a good read. So I help people with how, whether to open up or how to write their stories. But I really help young people get find their leg up, because all the young people today, they all want to be entrepreneurs or millionaires, whichever
yeah,
comes
yeah.
first.
Well, yeah. So,
Right.
there's not many movie
So
stars that are billionaires, but certainly a lot of entrepreneurs do. So they tend to look at that route, I suppose.
yes, and what I do, because I have a lot of business experiences, share some things that will help them be on the right path.
Yeah,
But I've also, I help other people with their dreams. I've helped somebody open up their dream. They were in Children's Aid Society. It's where you help kids in trouble, and
yeah,
they wanted to open a bakery cafe. So I sponsored them and helped them do that. So for me, that's the work I do. I speak in colleges, universities,
yeah,
and I write things, but I bring people together, and because I hear. I don't just listen, I hear what they're talking about, and I provide a space for them to be able to talk.
yeah, yeah. Wow, well, that's really great. That's really great. So, what have you got anything coming up for yourself now? Anything? I mean,
Well,
obviously, yeah, Canada was also locked down. They closed the borders completely as well. And I noticed some people from the States that had to stay in Canada and stuff like that. You couldn't go. But what's been going
well,
on for you anyway, since especially during this past year? What's been going on there?
I actually have something. It's rather exciting, and I'm hoping it comes through. As you know, I did executive produce an independent film. That was a few years ago. It was a very fun thing to do. It was set in the 80s, and it was college kids experiment gone wrong. So it was a bit of a horror thing that we used to do then. But this particular movie, I'm behind. We'll just say I'm behind. I would be the one of the executive producers for it.
Yeah.
Is it's it's a story of redemption,
Right.
and it's a story that really needs to be told today.
Hmm.
Again, it's a young boy who gets kind of lost and caught up with another one that's doing very bad things, but in his heart that that's not who he is, but he's got all this terrible life stuff going on, so he's just very confused. And and so there's somebody else that he crosses paths with, that together something terrible happens to the other person because of this young boy, and
Yeah.
together they work together, and it's just a fantastic story, and it speaks to my heart on so many levels. I'm hoping that once things get back to some semblance of normality, we can really move forward. It's called Children of the Fire, and I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah. Well, that's really great. That's really great stuff. As I say, coming from the beginnings of you know I always say humble beginnings, but obviously, poor background, and then seeing all this now, it's really inspiring.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, what message would you give out to anyone out there now to inspire them to move forward?
Very, very simply, always, always believe um, that you have the power and the strength, but mostly the resilience. As
Yeah,
long as you understand being, true to yourself and being a good person, so many people that will try to hold you back and put you down. Don't let them.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
let them. Always be true to who you know you are yourself. You can be judged instantly for things that don't make sense, and you can be held back from things that you want and want to pursue. Just keep going, one foot in front of the other.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Well, it's fantastic. So where can we find your book For the Right Kind of Love and all the other work you've done as well as a writer and movies and everything else? And what website can we go to?
Well, if you can find the book on Amazon.
Yeah.
I just approved the audio file, the audio book.
Yeah.
It's already there in paperback and hardcover and Kindle. I will tell you, in the first week, it became an international #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Wow. Great.
My Yes, we've been really, reaching out to so many people, and the feedback I have is wonderful. The reviews, there's some reviews that will explain that. My site, I've got a personal site. It's ShariAnnMoss.com. There's some information there. I'm in the midst of changing it. It needs to be updated. Been a little busy with the book. But you can also reach me there. But for sure, check it out on Amazon. There's a few other places for it, but it's Amazon worldwide. So that would be the best spot, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And I
fantastic.
love to hear from people. I get back to people right away. Um, I'm on LinkedIn again, Shari Moss. So yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm launching something new. I'm playing with the title, but it's a place online for us to. You can either talk or participate or just listen. People are going to be sharing their stories.
Great. Fantastic. And then anyone listening, you can also, I'll have the link to Shari Moss website, which is www.sharinemoss.com.
Yes, ShariAnnMoss.com.
Sherry Ann Moss, that's it. Yeah, I
Yes,
was trying to read it.
yes,
Yeah, excellent. So you can click back there on the link in the show notes, whenever you
yes.
like.
And
Excellent.
hopefully I'll have that updated soon. It was really nice to talk to you, Dave.
You too,
Thanks for
Sherry. Yeah, yeah. No, no, it's a great conversation I had with you. And I always like to inspire my listeners with stories like yours as well. And I've had a few, obviously, guests from different backgrounds and done many different things. And yeah, it's really, really great having you on the show. So thanks a lot for coming to talk to my audience today on the show.